After the terrible experience with the cheapest gaming branded pre-built system from Amazon, I decided to see if physical stores were any better. So I bought the cheapest gaming pre-built from Best Buy to see if it is in fact a best buy or a worst buy. But before we get to all that good stuff, let's have a quick look at today's video sponsor, which is Ekster. Ekster has a great selection of very well-made smart wallets. The one that I decided to go with was the Parliament in this nice brown leather color, and it just feels very premium and well-made. Just listen to that leather sound. The Parliament is an RFID blocking card holder, and it's been working really well for me over the last couple of weeks. And the coolest feature about their wallets is the fact that you can get it with this GPS card tracker insert thing. And basically what that means is you can track your wallet if you're the kind of person that leaves it all around the place. And it's also solar powered, so it recharges itself. If this sounds good to you, use my affiliate links in the description below and the code STAYHOME to get a 30% discount on one of their products. Now first, we need to determine what is the cheapest gaming branded pre-built that you can buy at Best Buy. Now this is quite difficult to do because every location has different stock, and considering the current human malware situation, you can't actually go and browse the physical shops. You have to order it online and then go pick it up at a specific location. So how I ended up deciding on the PC for this video was looking for the cheapest gaming branded pre-built that a location near me had in stock for quick pickup. Another thing to bear in mind is the fact that I'm actually buying this at a Canadian Best Buy, so it means they have slightly different stock and the pricing will also be a bit different. I did go have a look at options at US Best Buy locations, and it seems like they actually have only more expensive PCs in stock in the US, so I think this is actually a best case scenario. And with that quick disclaimer out of the way, this is the PC that I got. It's an Acer Nitro 50 that I spent 1,000 Canadian dollars on, which translates roughly to about 710 US dollars, which is a lot more expensive than the cheapest gaming branded pre-built on Amazon, but I think it's gonna be a lot more powerful. So let's have a look at the PC that I got. So I got my hands on this bad boy, which is an Acer Nitro 50. We'll discuss value later on in the video, but right now, let's cut it open and see what this little beast looks like. It's got a pretty aggressive looking monobrow. I wonder if it lights up. Straight off the bat, we're starting with a disappointment because yeah, this monobrow definitely doesn't light up. Although, it does come with a DVD drive, so you can watch your pirated version of Wayne's World or whatever it is that people use DVD drives for. As far as front I/O goes, it's not that bad. We've got a USB port. I'm not sure if it's USB 3 or 2, it doesn't really say anywhere. And then we've got a Type-C port and an SD card reader and a microphone and headphone jack. Around the back, we've got a fairly dodgy looking power supply. It looks like it may not be allowed within 100 meters of a public swimming pool. We've got a disabled HDMI port, some USB ports, an Ethernet jack, some kind of audio connectors, and then pretty dated looking rear I/O for a graphics card. You've only got a DVI port and HDMI. That's interesting considering the generation of graphics card in here, but we'll have a closer look. So now, let's open it up. Oh, wait, there's no fan in here as well. So I'm curious to see what the whole airflow situation looks like inside. So with that, let's open it up. Now, unfortunately, the inside of this PC isn't quite as hilarious as the inside of that cheapest Amazon pre-built. The wiring seems to have been done by a human being with two hands. As far as the power supply goes, it's actually an FSP unit, which is 80+ bronze rated, so that's a reputable company. I wouldn't be too worried about there being an arrest warrant out on this power supply. Over here, we have a 1 terabyte Western Digital WD Blue drive, so that's nice for like a game drive or whatever. There is also an SSD in here, so I like the fact that they include both. What's actually pretty hilarious about this system is they have this like pretty rad looking red front ventilation, but then it leads to a solid metal panel. There's no room for airflow here. Like, why is that there? Now, as far as components go, we've got a very generic looking GTX 1650 in here with, yeah, that's an interesting looking shroud. We'll have a closer look at that just now. As far as the CPU goes, we've got an i5-9400F, which is a 6-core CPU. It's okay, it's not amazing for $700, but it's not the worst. And then over here, we've got a single 8GB stick of RAM. Again, 16 gigs really would have been nice. Now, aside from the obvious challenge, this is actually quite an interesting GPU design. It's got a pretty huge fan on it, and it's got a non-standard PCB height. It should be fine heatsink-wise. It's a pretty lame-looking heatsink in there, but it is a GTX 1650. It's a very low-power GPU, so I think it should be fine. We'll do some thermal tests later in the video. The rear I/O of this GTX 1650 is slightly cut down compared to other retail versions of the graphics card that usually also come with a DisplayPort, so they cut that out to save costs on the OEM version of this card, I guess, although it's not really that big a deal. So with that, let's put the whole thing back together and see how the system runs. After digging around in this little Best Buy pre-built thing, I made a couple more worrying discoveries about it. It doesn't actually seem to have an SSD in it. I'm not entirely sure why I assumed a $700 gaming system in 2020 would have an SSD in it, but apparently it doesn't. If you're buying a new system, please make sure that it has an SSD in it. It just makes a really big difference when it comes to day-to-day usability. If you want to see a video along those lines, I've got one linked in the description below. Although I did make one fairly exciting discovery. The monobrow does in fact light up. So now we've got an all Acer badass gaming setup swag for the Fortnite. I'm not sure if that's how you appeal to the younger audience. Before we get into the gaming performance and thermal tests and things like that, I just want to quickly show you all of the bloatware that the system comes with. Because that's one of the biggest problems with buying a pre-built or a laptop from a big company like Acer, is they really cram that bloatware in there. And as you can see, there's a long list of terrible rubbish that you're probably going to have to spend some time uninstalling. In fact, if you buy a pre-built, I would kind of recommend reinstalling Windows on it just because, yeah, there's so much needless crap on it. And then on a quick side note about the peripherals, they are terrible. I think it's the same stuff that they give you with their standard Office PCs. So if you don't have a decent mouse and keyboard, I would factor that into the cost as well, because I've been gaming for the last day with these and it really is an unpleasant gaming experience. So now, talking about the gaming experience, let's have a look at some benchmarks of popular games that people may want to play on a system of this caliber. As you can see, when it comes to esports titles, realistically, you don't need more performance than this system offers with games like Dota, CSGO, and Rainbow Six. Fortnite is decent. You're getting above 60 frames per second at 1080p, although you do get occasional pretty bad stutters, and I think that's down to the whole RAM issue. The fact that you only have 8 gigs of RAM in the system is a pretty big letdown for me when it comes to a $700 system, and that on top of the fact that you don't have an SSD, again, very salty about that. The lack of RAM really shows in a game like Escape from Tarkov. Here you can see with 8 gigs, it's really starting to push the limit of your RAM capacity. And then when you throw 16 gigs of RAM in here, you can see that Escape from Tarkov actually wants to use about 10 gigs of RAM, so it stutters way less than with just the 8 gigs that the system comes with. And at $700, that's not really a sacrifice that I want to make. And then finally, let's just have a quick look at how hot all of the components run in this little case. While gaming, it's actually not that bad. As you can see here, after a long session of playing Escape from Tarkov, we're sitting at the low 70 degrees on the CPU and the GPU, but bear in mind, the ambient temperature was 18 degrees Celsius in the room, so yeah, it could get pretty hot if you live in a hotter country. So in conclusion, let's have a quick discussion about value around this cheapest in-store Best Buy gaming system. I really wanted to like it. The fact that it's only got a GTX 1650 in it and an i5-9400F, I think would have been forgivable considering the convenience of a pre-built. However, the fact that it doesn't have an SSD in it does make the day-to-day usability of the system more frustrating, and not having 16 gigs of RAM in a $700 gaming system, that's just a sacrifice that I don't think you should be making at this price point. I mean, the RAM that they used in this system would have been embarrassing to use in a build 15 years ago. How much could it possibly cost them to just add another stick in there? And with that, let me know in the comment section below what you think of the value of this cheapest Best Buy pre-built. And also, subscribe to the channel if you want to see a quick video where I make 2 small changes to the system to make it significantly better for the price point. You know, just turn it into the system that it should have been in the first place. If you enjoyed the video, subscribe to the channel like I just said, like the video, share it with your friends, check out all of my social media in the description below, and until the next video, bye bye.